Hi, this is Victoria Price covering Lesson 4's Achievement Gap assignment. I will be discussing what the Achievement Gap is, what contributes to the Achievement Gap, my experiences with it, what my proposal is to close it, and why this is important to the community and I. So what is the Achievement Gap? The Achievement Gap identifies a disparity in academic attainment amongst different cultures, ethnicities, and particularly between affluent, middle class, and low-income students. What are the main causes of the Achievement Gap? Well, the first contributor I found from the readings and the resources that provided to us, thank you, is the lack of resources for students who attend low-income schools, as well as the minority testing bias and tracking. So the effects of the Achievement Gap that I've experienced in my own community, as I get further into my academic career, the effects of the Achievement Gap have become very prevalent to me. So you kind of notice it more the more that you know. So, however, I was actually exposed to the effects of the Achievement Gap from a very young age in the community of my hometown of Grand Rapids, Michigan. The Achievement Gap is very prevalent, driving from one city to the next. Even just from driving outside of different schools, you notice the difference. However, I had a closer look as to what goes on inside of the school when I was different schools from different backgrounds that could highlight the academic achievement gap. So when I was 14 years old, my older cousin came to live with us, as it was too late in the school for my mom to enroll him in the school of choice, school that I went to in East Grand Rapids, Michigan. She enrolled him in the inner city school down the road from our house. Aside from the daily fights during the school day that my cousin would report, he also reported sharing textbooks between massive groups of people in class because their class just didn't have enough. There's also a shortage of writing utensils. Imagine being in school, wanting to learn, take notes, do your schoolwork, and you don't have a pencil or a pen. But one of the most alarming reports from my cousin is that oftentimes teachers would actually just be gone for the majority of the class period or would even fall asleep during class. As a student, what do all of these things tell you? For my cousin, and I'm sure the majority of his peers, that told him that if the teachers don't care, if the education leaders don't care, why should we? So as I'm older now and can reflect on this from the perspective as an adult and as a future educator, this is incredibly heartbreaking. So what is my proposed solution to closing the achievement gap? As there are many pieces and parts that contribute to the achievement gap, I find it difficult just to choose one solution. I realize that it will take a systematic reformation of education in a multitude of ways to even come close to closing this achievement gap completely. However, as an advocate of early childhood education and future Montessori premier teacher, I was really taken back by the fact that only 38% of 3-year-olds are enrolled in an early childhood education program in the United States, especially when there's a vast amount of research supporting the notion that children who attend early childhood education achieve a higher level of achievement than those who have not. In efforts to close the achievement gap, I propose expanding our early childhood education system. Our early childhood education system would be high quality and affordable for absolutely everyone. In efforts to gain more insight into how this could work, I've taken a close look as to how Germany's early childhood education system functions, as I will be a part of it someday. So first off, Germany purposely rejects high tuition rates for all preschools, as they do not want affordability or easy accessibility for early childhood education to be reserved for families of affluent status. And this goes for public, private, alternative forms of education. They reject all high tuition rates. Also in Germany, what families pay for early childhood education care is significantly lower due to all schools being primarily funded by the government. Again, this goes towards public, private, and alternative methods of education. However, what is left to be paid for tuition is based solely on the family's income. So each of the 16 states in Germany have different tuition rates based on the family's income. So the average between all the 16 states is still only 6.2%. The lowest is in the state of Berlin, which is 1.8%, and the highest is in northern Germany, which is just over 9%. So the average is 6.2%. So, thus, taking the average tuition amount into perspective, families who would make, hypothetically, a shared income of $150,000 a year would pay around $9,300 a year for their child to receive the same high-quality education as a lower or middle-class family. So, of course, the lower and middle-class families will pay a significantly less amount and would still actually have grants that they could use from the government. Furthermore, the amount paid for tuition can be partially written off by taxes at the end of the year. This is similar to the system that we have in the United States. I think it would be very wise for us to take on a very similar take of what they do, charging the same amount, the same percentage rate for tuition for all families, no matter what preschool you enroll your child in. This would give you the freedom of choice to decide what school you think best will fit your child's needs. So I really do believe that the United States would benefit greatly by adopting similar policies for our own early childhood education system. Given the disproportionate amounts paid by families of all socioeconomic status backgrounds, in conjunction with all students from socioeconomic statuses being in the same high-quality early childhood education classrooms. Hopefully, with this, tracking would not exist, and it would further close the achievement gap. The resources necessary to make this happen would be funding to preschools, daycares that are already in place, and of course to bring on more. So aside from the materials needed for all of these schools, funding would also be needed to either properly train ECE teachers and guides that we already have in place, or to even hire new ECE teachers as well. The obstacles I would expect to face when implementing this solution is people. So just with any transition period, I would expect there to be many obstacles when implementing these changes. I believe that the most difficult would be getting all Americans on board with paying more taxes. I believe this would be the most difficult because whenever speaks on paying more taxes, most people just really get up in arms about it. Unfortunately, most people forget to consider the fact that paying more taxes isn't really about you, me, or even the next guy. It's about all of us. And the bottom line is that that with academic equality, our entire country would ultimately be lifted up to new heights that our country has never seen before. So, as I'm fully aware that one major change will not completely close the achievement gap, with my proposed solution, I hope to achieve a nation where every child, no matter race, culture, or socioeconomic status, has a solid foundation of cognitive skills, social-emotional skills, linguistic skills, behavioral skills, that provide them with the opportunity of academic equality as they enter into grade school. Although I'm an advocate for Montessori education, I'm also an advocate of early childhood education first. One of the first things that attracted me to Montessori was the recognition of the child's absorbent mind from birth to age 5. However, my only problem with traditional Montessori is that it is private and therefore very costly to many families. Of course, it must be private in order to practice the Montessori philosophy properly without adhering to public school norms or traditions. However, I don't agree with the exclusion of allowing most families access to Montessori education. Therefore, I've always told myself that when I do start up a Montessori school, that it would be a nonprofit and available to all children, no matter their family's socioeconomic status. This would be possible if the United States adopted similar ways such as that Germany has in place. This is important to the community and I because all families reserve the right to equal opportunities and accessibility and affordability for high quality early education for children in their community.